Risk in investment ownership include business risk, which has to do with cash flow, financial risk, which is income related to debt service, and capital risk, which is reasonable and available financing. Marketability is being able to sell a property at current market value. Liquidity is selling a property and getting your investment back in a fairly short period of time, typically 1 year. A gross lease, the tenant pays rent, landlord pays all the expenses. In a net lease, the tenant pays rent and expenses. In a percentage lease, the tenant pays rent and a kicker based on the gross sales. The landlord can control expenses through an expense stop. Rent concessions allows landlords to negotiate with tenants and their new updates. Tenant upgrades are paid by the tenant over the term of the lease. It's amortized. Simple interest is the interest that compounds on principal balance. The loan constant is your principal and interest payment expressed as a percentage. In a default and a foreclosure where a lease is in place, priority of lease versus mortgage will determine if the lease is honored. In other words, if that lease has been recorded before the mortgage, only the mortgage foreclosing and any liens of lesser priority can be eliminated. Bankruptcy will terminate leases and other agreements, including listing contracts. Debt service coverage ratio is your net income divided by debt service. Your operating expense ratio is your operating expenses divided by the effective gross income. Cash break-even ratio is your operating expenses minus reserves plus your debt service divided by gross income. The equity dividend rate is your cash throw-off divided by equity. The capitalization rate is your net operating income divided by a cap rate to give you value. The sensitivity analysis evaluates various borrowing alternatives that yield the best equity dividend rate for the investor. Remember, NOI minus your debt service gives you cash throw-off. Cash throw-off divided by your equity gives you equity dividend rate. And that's the end of Chapter 15's review.